Hello viewers at home, my name is Bukola Oriola. Today we are going to be meeting a great guest. She is the first of the kind on the show. She is a survivor of human trafficking herself and she has her own TV show. So today she's going to be telling us about her experience as a victim and a survivor of sex trafficking here in the US and what she is doing right now advocating for women and other victims who are still out there suffering as victims of human trafficking. So please join me tonight to welcome Jane McCormick on the show.
Hi.
Hello, Jane, and
Hi.
welcome to
Nice
the
to
show.
see you.
We are
Hi,
really glad to have you on Imprisoned show tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for honoring our invite.
Oh, thank
And
you. I wouldn't miss it for the world.
And it's really a great pleasure that, we have an actual survivor so that people out there can know that this is real.
You
this
can
is
survive.
Human trafficking is real. And those people will look at
like everybody else.
Blame. We need to stop blaming the victims and
Yes.
start going after the Johns.
Yeah, the
and
Johns
after
and the
the
pimps.
perpetrators. Yes.
The pimps and the pimps and the Johns is who I'm after.
Yes.
Because I was pimped and taken and trafficked to Las Vegas when I was 17 years old. And I'm in my 70s now, so I can tell you, I survived, and it wasn't easy.
Yes, I read all
very
that
dramatic.
in this
It's horrible.
book. And as you can see, this book, it says, Breaking My Silence. You really need to get your copy. I was reading it through the nights. I was stealing to read it because, it was so revealing and it was heartbreaking to find you as a 2-year-old being sexually molested by your stepfather.
It was a horrible life. It was totally a nightmare is what it was. It was nothing worse could happen to anyone than to be molested as a little child. And to see nightmares at 70 years old, I still have nightmares about shadows coming over the top of me and somebody touching me. And I wake up and I'm screaming and crying. Patty, my producer at the shows and my also writer of the book, has been to my house when I woke up crying and screaming. And that I'm in my 70s and you never, ever, ever get over it. So, I just want to say, when your child says to you that somebody's touching them, you believe them because children don't make that up. That's nothing that a child would ever, ever make up. Take heed to that right away. Get them psychological help right away, and cover them with love and kindness, and don't ever say, I don't believe you. My mother said, I don't believe you.
Do you think that your mother didn't pay attention to you because she was overwhelmed as a single mom?
Well, she wasn't a single mom. She was married to my dad when he died. He was 32 years old. My mom was married a year later to the Marine that molested me when I was 3.
Yes, but she was dating her already before
But she
they
wasn't
got
by
married.
herself. She was my husband. She was single. Yeah, okay. She was probably single for a year. But I was only 2 years old then. So when I was 3 is when you misunderstood. It wasn't 2, it was actually 3. So when I was 3, she married this Marine. And this Marine Corps took us everywhere all over the country. And I was in Hawaii now after this was going on for years. He would say to me, this is the way Daddy loves his little girl.
Yes.
And he would say all this sick stuff to me. And as a little child, I actually felt that something's wrong, that this is something really wrong. And I would feel awful icky, and I'd run and hide. I'd hide under the bed.
Yes.
I'd hide anywhere I could hide. I'd
the
hide.
closet.
When I seen him drive up, I'd go hide because I didn't want to see him. And because he touched my body and stuff, and it felt wrong. Even as a 2-3-year-old child, you know when something's wrong.
Yes.
and you don't know why they're banging themselves up against a bathtub while they're bathing you. I mean, how sick is this? It was just sickening. When I think about it as a grown woman today, I think about this man as the scum of the earth. He had to be the devil himself. Had to be the devil. Because there's nobody that could be a God-fearing man would never do something like that to his child. Never. Never in a million years. And that was the start of my life. And then I had 2 children very, very young. I was 16 when I had a child. And by the time I was 17, my baby was 3 months old, Roberta, and I was taken to Las Vegas and put on the street and left there to shift for myself. And I was told, every time you see a man smile at you in the cocktail lounge, just smile at him back, and he'll come over and buy you a drink. And when he does, then he'll say that he wants to have a party with you. That's when you go upstairs and turn a trick with him. And that's what they told me. And pretty soon, to survive, I had to do that. And it was the sickeningest thing. I'll never forget the first time I ever did anything like that. It was just horrible.
Yes,
It was just horrible.
You said a lot about that in the book, about how you were unhappy, but you were trapped.
I was trapped. I was trapped in a situation where I had to get my kids back. I wanted to get my kids back because they were actually given to my mother-in-law. And I wanted to get my kids back more, and I wanted to live.
Yes.
I would have died to have my children back. And that's why I did what I did. I got into prostitution because I wanted to get my children back. That's the only reason that I ever did anything like that.
But in the story, it wasn't you who just went into prostitution.
No.
Somebody lured you into it.
Well, yeah,
the pimp.
The pimp did.
Yes,
yeah.
lured you into prostitution.
Yeah, he lured me into prostitution because
he was using you for money.
Yeah, he took my money. He took all my money, and then I ended up with another guy after he left and went back to California and left me there. I ended up with another guy, and this guy took all my money. And Johnny Patterson was his name.
Johnny, yeah.
And he took my money. And I used to trick Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and Peter Lawford and Jerry Lewis, Arnold Palmer, Sam Sneed, Harry James, William Frawley. And I was probably the top call girl in Las Vegas from 1960 to 1972.
And
what happened is why I tried to kill myself was that after I got finally out of that business, I had no money. I had no education. I tried to be a nurse. I was a nurse's aide. That's what I had to go back into, was nurse's aide. And they didn't make any money. And I was sick because I'd lost everything. I lost my home. I lost my car. I lost my clothes. Everything.
yes.
And I mean, well, except for my diamonds.
And it's also revealing that you have, those people the public look at.
Oh, look up to them like they're
role
gods.
models.
They're wonderful.
Like, they are heroes.
Oh, yeah, they're heroes.
This kind of people are the ones that are the Johns.
They are Johns. Yeah, they're the Johns.
So what would be your advice for the young ones?
The young girls?
Yes.
If a guy ever says to you that it's okay for you to go to bed for money with somebody that he understands, I understand it's just for the money. And it's not really sex, it's just for the money. You run the other way. You never, ever get into it. You never turn your first trick. Because after you get into that, and if you're a beautiful girl, you're going to get big money. And after you get that big money, you can't get out of it. And then your life is ruined because you're going to get older. And after you're 20-some-odd years old, you're not needed anymore. You're done. You're done. It's over. They want young girls. And we have a problem in this country today. And the problem is today is that they're taking young kids, young 12-year-olds. They're trafficking young 12 years old. That's the average age
Age,
of
yes.
entering into prostitution
Yes.
is 12 years old. Are you going to tell me that that's okay? What this country's going to let this happen? We got to get these laws changed, and we got to put these guys in prison for a long, long time for pimping, for buying a prostitute. In Sweden, they arrest the buyers and the sellers, the pimp and the John, in Sweden, and the prostitution rate went down 89% in 3 years. So you can't tell me that this country in America and other countries can't bring in that type of law.
Yes.
You know, if you think about it really hard, we don't punish them at all. I mean, can you see me arresting Frank? Can you see him arresting Frank Sinatra
No.
for buying me?
No.
I've just turned 3 months, 18 years old right here in this picture. That's how young I am.
Yes.
And he's 32 years older than me.
And there was
And
a
he's taken me to bed every time he comes to Vegas for 13 years for money.
and there was even a time that there was a police incident with when Johnny went to bash your car or punch your
The
clothes.
car, oh, he
And
burned
the-
my clothes out in front of this
Yes.
bar, and he drove the Cadillac into the wall of the bar. Yeah, and crashed the roof thing, awning on the bar. Yeah.
Yeah, the police
But the
didn't
police
show
didn't do
any
anything.
mercy to
They
you.
didn't- and when I was shot at, when he was
Yes,
shooting at me out in the
yes,
desert, he was actually shooting at me with a gun, sitting on the Mercedes Sportster, his buddy's convertible Mercedes
But
Sportster,
with your money.
but with my money. Oh, with his chick's money, George Bennett. I helped turn out that girl, his girl, you know, into prostitution into Vegas. See, what they do is they get girls, other women, to bring out the other girl and teach her the ropes in Vegas. That's what I did. And I hope to God has forgiven me for teaching her the ropes of Vegas, because she was never the same. Her and I have never been the same, ever. She lives in Alaska now. They owned a whorehouse in Alaska back in the 70s. And she's now crippled so badly she can't even walk. She's in a wheelchair. I mean, it's a really harmful life. It's a devastatingly harmful life. There's nothing good about that life. And as far as I'm concerned, I hope to God, and I mean I hope to God, that you don't ever get in that life, because it will eventually kill you. I took so many drugs. I had to do drugs. I couldn't go to bed with strange men if I didn't do drugs. So I was on uppers and downers and in-betweeners. I mean, I was on all kinds of pills. Pills was the thing then. Pot was the thing. And I was with the Lindsey Crosby and Gary Crosby. I tricked them. I mean, it ran around the room smoking pot and stuff. That's what we did. That's how it was then. That's how the world was for me. And it was such a fake world, because all the pit bosses and the owners of the hotels loved me because I never stole from anybody. I was somebody they could call and say, Janie, can you come over? Mr. P's here from Chicago. And I'd be over there dolled up like $1,000,000 on his arm, looking beautiful beside him at a crap table or whatever. I made a lot of money with men gambling. I didn't just make money turning tricks.
Yes.
I made a lot of money gambling with men. Because, see, I wasn't living in New York or Chicago. I was living in Las Vegas. So that's a big difference. And when you're trafficked to Las Vegas and let out basically at the Sahara Hotel, and he takes off and leaves you, what do you do? I mean, what can you do?
Yes, that's it's like
You know?
you have been taken to a place and there is no turning
I
back.
don't know anybody.
There's no way to turn back or how to turn back.
Just like you didn't know anybody. I didn't know
Yes,
anybody in Vegas
yes.
at the time.
Yes, and you know, in situations like this, we have been saying the government should start arresting, which is good, so they can be arresting the Jones. But you know, would you advise that they need to go after even the big shots, like those ones
like
that
Frank
come to-
Sinatra.
Yes, yes.
Like
you know,
Arnold Palmer,
to
Sam
really
Snead. Those are both tricks.
to stop this crime.
They need to stop this crime. It's a
Because
crime against women.
yes, because if they don't go after the big shots, the people that we know out there that we are looking up to, do you think it
It's
will
never
ever
going to
end?
stop. It'll never end. No. Because, see, they have all the money. And the big shots are the one who are buying the big, expensive prostitute. They're buying big money prostitutes. Girls that are making thousands of dollars a day. That's who they're buying. And you're not gonna tell anybody out there that if they make $1,000 a day, that it's harmful. You might as well blow smoke, because them girls are gonna go, what do you mean? This is great.
Yes.
But what they don't understand is what's going to happen to their bodies later on in life. I mean, I have degenerative bone disease. I have all kinds of crippling disease with my back and my neck. I mean, I'm riddled with pain daily because of the life I led 13 years in Vegas. And people say, oh, because you led that life and you were on your back for yeah. Be honest.
And then there was
Straight up.
There was one of them that took you to New York.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and he was a mafia guy. He was one of the mafia. He was a Jewish mafia. And he was Mr. Costa Nostra. And he gave me thousands of dollars, put thousands of dollars in a checking account for me. I could go anywhere and do anything I wanted. Well, I started hanging out in gay bars and going where I could meet some fun people. I started meeting these gay girls, and I was having a blast. These gay guys, it was like, yay! Nobody's wanting to put the make on me. You know, it's like the first place I ever went that somebody wasn't trying to keep me in bed. It was like, yay! So I had a blast with those people. And then Johnny found out I was partying, and he found out I was partying with these gay girls at these gay bars, and he sent over a guy with a gun under his jacket.
Yes.
Then he leaned over like this and said, "You will be leaving, right?" And showed the jacket, the gun. I said, "Yeah, I'm leaving, all right. I'm leaving on the next jet plane out of here. I'm leaving."
But then you didn't have anybody to call, and
no,
except Johnny again.
Except Johnny again, and he came
that
to
you
get
were
me.
running away from.
That he came to get me.
Yes.
And was going to throw acid in this girl's face if I didn't leave.
Yes.
And she was just my friend, and you have to read it in the book. But
Yes, I read it in the book.
And then he was going to throw acid in our faces or whatever and kill me again.
Yes, and
So-
Johnny, I don't know. That incident where he came to get you and was going to throw the acid, he acted out a lot, because
Right.
at some point he became gentle and was begging, and at some point he was
begging me
crying.
to come back. Crying?
You
Yeah, he
know,
was crying.
Is that part of the trick that
It's
he
part of the
used then?
pimps. It's part of that's how they con you. They tell you they love you so much. You're the most beautiful thing in the world. They tell you everything that you want to hear from a man. In other words, all of us girls want to hear we're beautiful. All of us girls want to hear we're beautiful and we're good in bed. All of us girls want to hear all those good things. And the pimp is the one who knows how to say all those things. And say them in such a way that you get conned into believing that, wow, he's all that in a bag of chips. Being honest with you.
Yes, we are going to take a little break now.
Okay.
We will be right back. Thank you for staying with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is again Imprisoned show. If you are just tuning in, thank you for staying with us tonight. We have a great guest, and her name is Jane McCormick. I was just talking to her about her experience as a victim of sex slavery here in the U.S. And also, you were desperate
Yeah, you're
to have
desperate.
your children.
Yes, exactly. I
And
wanted my children back.
because of the
But
desperation,
after I made all the money and I went to court, they awarded the kids to my stepmother my mother-in-law anyway.
yes, they gave the keys
So
to.
that's when I went crazy.
Do you think that they gave the keys to your
In-law,
mother-in-law
yeah.
because they couldn't find a job that you were doing to
Right.
think that
I think that
you
might
were
be what it
capable of
was.
taking care of the
I think
kids?
that's probably what it was.
And looking back now, would you say that it was better anyway that your mother-in-law kept those kids?
I would say that.
And do you have a relationship with your
What
kids
I'd
now?
rather had it happened was that they could have been with me and I would have got awarded some alimony and I could have went to school and finished my nursing. That's what should have happened. I'm not glad that they stayed with their mother-in-law, my mother-in-law. No, I'm not. I misquoted that. I'm not happy at all. To this day, it breaks my heart that they didn't get raised by me.
Yes, but your husband then, or your ex-husband, their
Yeah,
dad,
Bob.
Bob, after he left the
Navy.
Navy, he wasn't really doing much. So
He wasn't working.
how
Yeah,
were
I
they
don't know
going to
how
give
he'd give.
you alimony anyway?
That's what I mean. How was he going to give me any alimony? That's what I mean. That's what I figured. I couldn't
Yes.
get any money from him. And I was kind of in a catch-22. What was I going to do for the kids? I don't think there was any welfare. I don't remember ever being any welfare. I can't remember, was there welfare? I don't remember if there was welfare then. Because I never heard anybody tell me I could get welfare for taking care of my kids, or I would have done that.
Yes.
But I never heard of it. So that's probably why the judge awarded them to because he was young and he was like 18 and I was like 16 or whatever. I mean, we were real young.
Yes, and his mom was like the adult present.
Exactly. She was the only adult present, yeah.
And your mom,
My
you
mom was
said
out with a
in the
married
book-
woman. She was
Yes.
out with a married man, I mean, and she was a wild thing. She was wild. My mom was a wild thing. She would dance and get crazy. She'd dance on the bar and all kinds of things. She was crazy. I loved her anyway. I mean, I you know what? No matter how bad your moms are, you still love them no matter what. And that's true with my mom too. I loved her. She's passed away a long time ago, but yeah, she was really a bad mom. Actually, she never believed me when I told her about the molestation as a child, and she loved all the gifts I gave her when I was turning tricks and being in prostitution. Pardon me. She loved all the blessing of gifts and diamond earrings and everything else I bought her all the time. I'd buy her all kinds of beautiful gifts, mink stoles, all kinds of things.
You were really generous to the people around you.
Always, I
And
always gave
even
big
the
money
kids,
tipped.
even though the kids you couldn't have custody, you were sending them $1,000
I always sent
every
them money
month.
every month. Every month I sent them thousands of dollars. They should have had it, and they did have anything they wanted. I mean, when I went and got them, I took them, got their hair done, took them and bought them new clothes and beautiful dresses. And when I had them in New York with me, I had them in
Yes.
New York. We took them to, we went up to Yonkers, New York, up to the Catskills, and lived it up there with the Catskill Mountains with all the private clubs and all that stuff because Irving was taking care of me.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh boy, my girlfriend Carol, she came.
Yes.
And Charlie, her
I
son.
read it in the
Yeah.
book with her son.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I could tell you something that would drop you dead right now. I'll tell you something what happened. Charlie was molested by Johnny, and so was Sydney and Roberta. And I don't know if this is in the second book or not, but this is going to be the second book. And what happened was Charlie ended up, he's in his 50s now. He ended up molesting his 16-year-old stepdaughter. And he's went to prison, and he's now in prison for 30 years for molesting her. She put it on the internet that she was in love with him and all this kind of stuff. And they found out from school, and then they went and took him to jail. and he's in prison. Charlie, Carol's little boy, that my daughters and all of us grew up with.
Wow.
He's in prison for 30 years for molesting his stepdaughter.
So would you say that a molested child has the tendency of being a molester
They say
as
that
an adult?
They say that. I mean, they say that that's a tendency that can happen to them. It can happen. It never so much as crossed my mind about my girls. Never. I don't think they ever molested their kids, and I never would molest my kids. I mean, I'm such a freak about that. I just like this is the horriblest thing that could happen to any girl, any boy, any child. And that Cervinsky guy or whatever his name was, that coach, how sick was that? And he got away with that for years, all them little boys. That was sickening. It's just pure sickening. What's wrong with these people?
I have no
Don't
idea.
they realize what that's doing to somebody?
Yes.
I think they do. I think they like to realize that they're being in control, because it's probably the only place they have control, or some little kid. How sick is that? Just pitiful.
It
It's
is.
pitiful.
And you also talked about your brother.
Oh, my brother was the
Who was
sweetest
your-
guy in the world.
Yes, who was your friend.
He was my friend.
But while you were still very little, it was hard to confide in him.
Well, yeah, I couldn't, because they kept him away from me.
Yes, when he was with your grandparents.
Yeah, they would put him with my grandparents. He got to live with my grandparents, which is a blessing. Holy moly, I'd love to live with my grandma. I loved her so much. She was the best thing in my whole life, my grandma Momo. She was the greatest entity in my life. Loved her to pieces. And she loved the Lord, and she was a good person. She was a really good person. And there's a few people in my life that were wonderful people. I mean, not everybody was bad, not everybody.
Yes.
But I think that I'm probably a very strong person, because I think I have a tendency to put a filing cabinet in my brain, and I have a filing system is where I file it under a certain category, and that's how I get through it.
Yes.
Is because I put it in the back file, and I don't think about it anymore. And when I do think about it, I get all teary, just like we all do, and of things in our past. And you were raped, so you know
Yes, of
what
course.
it's like.
Of
I was
course,
raped also.
yes.
I was raped as a teenager, and I was also I also had silicone injections in my breasts that they used to do to the showgirls in Vegas.
Yes.
They didn't put implants in 1961. They used raw silicone injections, and they injected my breasts with the raw silicone, because Johnny thought, ooh, that'd be great, even though they were standing up like, but I'd had 2 children. So they needed a little boost maybe, but wasn't really bad, nothing to speak of. So they gave me one shot in each boob. Well, after I left Vegas, what happened to me then was that it was about 12 years later, I think, 10, 12 years, I got these pussy sores on my chest and breasts, and I went to the doctor, and they had to go in and scrape out all the silicone that they could get. They couldn't guarantee you that they got it all. So what happened was, when they put the implants in, and I was laying in the bed 2 days later, they took the bandages off, and both breasts were as black as the back of this ward there. They were black as your jacket.
Wow.
They died, and gangrene set in. So gangrene was on my breasts. When I looked down, my breasts were black, and my skin was dead. And they had to sign this, and I was in emergency surgery like that. And so when you women out there think that you're going to get silicone injections or silicone implants, think about it, honey, because them thinkers can bust. And it's a very, very horrible experience. And then then they removed both my breasts. Then I went and I was going to have them reconstructed, except that didn't work either. So now I have pretty flat chest. I don't have to worry about, I don't have to worry about boobs. But it's a crazy thing to do to yourself, just because you think some guy's going to say, "Wow, look at your boobs." I mean, it's like, it's not all that It's not cracked up. It's all that's cracked up to be. It's like, yeah,
It's,
one of those
the
things.
story is so, it's just touching and demoralizing
Yeah.
to find somebody going through this kind of experience. It's really hard, and it's important for people to know out there that there are still lots of women and
Yes,
children going
it's
through
right.
this.
It's right
And
now.
you, in the book, you talked about, you got to a point and you were like, oh, should I continue or
Right.
should I stop? By now you must have hated me so much. And
Yeah.
that is the thing with the public. There is always the stigma against victims.
Oh, sure. There's always
so,
that.
so how can we stop stigma in the community?
Against girls that are
Against, yes,
women that have been
yes,
put into
yes,
prostitutes. And,
yes.
well, you know, you need to realize that their mothers, their grandmothers, they're women, they're teachers, they're women. And they have moms and they have dads. And hopefully they have a good life. And they got conned by some guy that cons them into believing that it's okay to turn tricks. It's okay if you do that. But when you think about a man entering your body and you don't even know but his first name, you got to think how horrible that is. It's devastating. Because when I think about all the men that I was with, it's sickening to think that I did that.
And while you were at Vegas, you met other girls. I think one of them was Annette.
Annette Lane, yeah.
And
She's the one who really
you were
introduced me to
always,
Frank.
yes, you were always talking about your kids.
Yeah, our kids.
And you see that talking about your kids, those are the parts that like kind of give me little pleasure.
Yeah.
You know, like a break from the
Horribleness,
experience.
yeah. My
Because
children were wonderful.
You really, even though you were going through all that, your love for your kids was
my love,
present with you always.
All my life.
And those other girls, you didn't talk about their life or whatever, you know, brought them there. Did they ever talk about, you know, the way you, because you were sharing about your kids with everybody?
Well, yeah, I did. And they shared with me. They shared stories with me, but not that much. I mean, I don't remember all that much.
Okay.
Maybe it's because I don't remember it that much, is that I didn't write it down or tell Patty to write it down. I don't remember. All I know is that there was four of us. There was Patsy Lee West, Jane McCormick, me, Jane Harvey. I was known as Jane Harvey back then,
Yes,
not Jane
Harvey.
McCormick, Jane Harvey.
Yes.
And then there was Patsy Lee West, Audrey, and Lori. Yeah, there was four of us basically that run the whole strip. In other words, we could go in any hotel. Any hotel would accept us, and we could sit in the cocktail lounge and meet rich, big shot, high gambling men. And they would also introduce us to them because I never stole anything from anybody. I never used anybody. I never talked about anybody. I never mentioned anybody's names. I knew how to keep my mouth shut.
Giving tips to
I was tipping everybody. I tipped I tipped everybody. I would give $100 tips to people because I wanted them to share in my wealth.
You were always thinking about others, even though you were in this situation that you didn't like.
Horrible life.
But you had to stay in it. And
once you get in it, you can't get out of it because of the money. What are you going to do to make a living? You got to be a lawyer to make that kind of money. And I'm not bragging. I mean, a lot of people think, oh, you know, she had Cadillacs and she had Corvettes and she had this and she had that. She's bragging. No, I'm not. I'm not bragging, folks. I'm telling it like it is. I happen to have fallen into a group of men in Vegas that showed me the good life. But the underbelly of that good life was I was being beat up by Johnny. I was being punched in the eye. I had black, bloody nose. My skull was cracked open. Johnny cracked my skull open. All the horrible things, all the beatings I took, and I still went back to him.
Yes,
because I was mentally not right.
And there was no arrest.
No
of
support.
him
No. No. He never got arrested, not once.
And
Never.
the hospital, whenever you went to the
When
hospital.
I would tell them a lie. I would tell them I fell down the stairs, or I'd tell them I fell on the railing, or I'd tell them anything I'd make up.
So
when he broke my arm, he knocked me down, hit me, knocked me down the floor, took my arm out like this, and stepped on it like this, standing up and stepped on my arm. My arm was that big. Took me out in the desert and said, I'm leaving you, bitch, out in this desert. You think you're going to get out of this business. You're never getting out of this business. You're never going to leave this business. And just don't even think you are.
So
taking me out in the desert was going to leap me out of the car with my arm like that. He finally took me to the hospital because my arm was swelled up so bad. He felt bad. Don't you say a word when you go in there. You tell him you hurt yourself falling off the steps. See, that's why I love it today. When you go to a hospital today, you say, they say to you, do you feel safe at home?
Yes.
Do you feel safe at home? I love that. I love that thought that they actually ask women, are you safe at home? Mm-hmm. That is so good.
Do you think that the hospitals need to be doing more?
Yes.
In terms of probing further and
probing further, yes.
For example, when somebody comes in with a bad bruise,
yes,
to make sure that whoever comes in with the person is isolated or taken away.
Taken away.
And then, use time
somebody
and
go in there and talk to her.
To make sure that, because he already instilled fear in you. Even if they were asking you what happened,
you're scared.
You would have been able to say the truth to them.
No.
But,
you
now
can't.
That they ask you at the hospital, do you feel safe? So do you think they should take it a little step further by getting maybe a social worker?
I think they should say a social worker should come in and say to them, you can tell me anything. It's okay. I'm not going to say anything to anybody. And make it a secret. It'll be our secret. You can tell me. If you tell me, I'll not tell anybody. I'll never say anything to him or nothing. But just tell me. And I also think that we need to have the Refuge Network, the Breaking Free, the Andrea Alexander House, and Sarjono, and the Refuge. They need to have their pamphlets in every hospital desk. So if you walk in there, you see that. Do you need help? Here it is. Give us the websites. Give us the phone numbers. If I would have had that access, I would have grabbed that, put it in my purse or whatever, and called them later.
Even if they don't put, because that is one part of it. But what about, would you say they could also put it in the discharge papers?
Yeah,
like when they
that's
write
a good idea. Discharge
for
paper,
you,
give it to them
and then just put
as they leave.
Numbers and link on the
exactly.
part of their prescription or whatever
that's
they're
right.
writing
That's
for
right.
you.
Well, they always give you that long sheet, that exit paper.
Yes.
And there should be a sheet in there if you're not safe at home.
Yes.
Here's where you
Call
go.
this number.
That's what we should do. Let's get that going.
Okay. We'll be right back. Please stick around for more. Thank you. This is the Advocate Excellence Award segment, and the advocate nominated today is called Milena Gebremeskel. We want to thank Milena. Rose was a survivor that Milena worked with, and she was the one who nominated Milena. Milena, we want to thank you for the good work you are doing. We are honored to give you this award. We hope that this will encourage you to keep doing more in what you are doing, working with victims of human trafficking. Thank you, and God bless you. And if you want to nominate your advocate, please go to imprisonshow.com and nominate your advocate. Victims and survivors can nominate their advocate for the Advocate Excellence Award. You can nominate a taxi driver, you can nominate a public health nurse, you can nominate a doctor, you can nominate shelter advocate. Anybody could be your advocate as long as that person was part of your rescue to get your freedom back. So please, we encourage you to go on the website and nominate your advocate for the Advocate Excellence Award. Thank you so much for sticking around with us. We are back again with Jane McCormick. Now, we've gone through everything, or most of all, if not everything, or some of what, you have experienced and the life you are leading now. Tell us more about Breaking My Silence, the TV show.
What I'm doing now is that I've got in my heart the most important thing that I could do for this world, this country, or whatever, is make them aware of the harm that trafficking of women and children is in this country, and make them aware that prostitution is the worst thing you could put a woman through, and make sure that I get the message out by interviewing women that have been in prostitution, that have survived, and now are making something of themselves, and have turned their lives around. And I get so excited when they come in the show. It's like a rejuvenation. I'm just like, yay, you survived too,
Yes.
And they tell their story. And then I also interview Alexandra House, like you saved you. And I interview the Sarjono House. And I am Breaking Free. I haven't got them here yet, but I'm working on them. And all the different organizations that help women escape.
Yes.
To find safe housing, a safe place to live, feel safe at home. If you don't feel safe at home, call one of these organizations.
Yes.
And you should print them up on the bottom of this show.
Yes, we'll give you numbers of some of those organizations.
Yeah, give them some of those numbers because it's real important. Because then they can get a hold of them if they're hurting or they're having husbands or beating them up or whatever they're doing to them. Don't take it, girls, whatever you do. Just don't take it any longer. Stop it. Stop the violence because he could kill you next time. And I just going to tell you, I just met this woman. She's in Texas. She's going to be on my show via Skype. And she was brutally beaten by her husband for years. And her sister was also beaten by her husband and also was killed by her husband. And he was a police officer. So there you go. It's like, oh, my God. I couldn't believe it. This Robert contacted me the other day. He saw me on Facebook, and he said he wants me to talk with her and stuff. And God, she sounds like, what a sweetie. She survived it, though. She's being okay now. She wrote a book.
Good.
I feel if you wrote your book and I wrote my book. I feel if you could write your book, if you could get that message out there, somehow put it on paper. I don't know what you think, but when you write it down, you look at it, you go, wow, I did all that and more.
Yes, that's true.
Then you get happy about it. It's like, yay.
Yes, and it's therapeutic too.
Yeah, it was therapeutic. Yeah, it was. Definitely was. It was like, yay, I survived.
So good. Thank you so much for staying with us. We really appreciate your being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
God bless you. We hope that we will see more of you. And thank you for the good work you are doing. God bless you.
God bless you, sweetie, for what you're doing. We're doing it together.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. God bless you too, honey. You're an angel.
See you next time on Imprisoned Show. We are going to movie reviews. We've decided to bring you reviews of books and movies on human trafficking so that while you are at home at your own leisure, you can pick up a book like Breaking My Silence and read for you to see what someone who has been trafficked has gone through. and know how to find help. And also we'll be having movies to review. So today we have Laura Sargent telling us a movie called Human Trafficking. Please stay around for that segment. Thank you.
Come with me to a faraway place. I'll mend all your fears and dry all your tears. I'll take you along a winding path. It will take us to somewhere we'll never turn back. You'll heal from the pain that's been laid upon you. Just feel the sun that's trying to shine through. Don't give up now. Life will get better. Just take my hand and you'll understand that you're not alone, and I'm here by your side. You can hold on to me and I'll help you break free. Let's tear through this wall. It's been black in you. There's a brand new side that's waiting just for you. You've got what it takes, so find the strength that's inside of you and let it carry you through. So come with me to a faraway place. I'll mend all your fears and dry all your tears. It's not your fault. Thank you.
We light this candle in honor of victims who have lost their lives as a result of human trafficking, and we hope that their soul rests in perfect peace. So welcome back to the movie review segment. Laura has watched a movie and she's going to tell us about it. Hi, Laura.
Hi, I watched Human Trafficking with Donald Sutherland in it, and it was an amazing movie. It really opened my eyes as to how human trafficking can happen. I've heard about it, read about it, but this made it more clear how terrible this is and how easy it is to get involved in it, be fooled into thinking you're going to live a better life in another country. They prey on easily manipulated people. And even
Yes, so what are the various parts of the show? Like, what age range do you see on the show that are being trafficked?
well, it happens more to younger people because probably they're a lot easier to talk into this type of thing. The average age of people trafficked in the United States, for instance, is 13 to 14. 80% of trafficked victims are girls, but there are boys and women also that are trafficked. Many times, because of the economy the way it is, and people who are very poor are targeted, people who are lonely or have no friends, nobody to talk to, people in desperate situations.
Do you have any particular scene that you want to share? A particular scene in the movie?
There are so many good parts in this movie. The movie comes in two parts, part one and part two. And the first part follows around the lives of possibly 5 different people, a very young girl, a young mother, and then a teenager. And it shows the ways that they got involved in trafficking. One was enticed into being a model. One met a man who pretended he cared about her, and she thought they were going somewhere together, and then he sold her right at that point when they got to where they were going. One was a very young child whose parents needed money, and her father sold her for money so the family could eat. Some of the scenes in the movie that really struck me were, first of all, it was fast-paced at times. Sometimes it wasn't. And sometimes it was very fast-paced, and I'm almost thankful for that because it was less horrific to me to see it when it went so fast. But I have a feeling that's how the people in the movie felt, how the victim felt, that everything was passing in front of their eyes so quickly and they couldn't grasp it because this is a complicated thing, what they do. They trick them or fool them into believing they'll be safe, and then they push them into a vehicle that takes them off somewhere, and they bind them sometimes, and it was just horrible.
And was there any kind of threat? Because the tricking is the fraud in human trafficking. There are 3 types. There is the fraud. Somebody can be trafficked as a result of fraud, force, or coercion. And the fraud part is tricking someone. So that was evident in the movie.
Very.
And then, was there anything like threatening somebody's family in the movie that we need to look out for?
Yeah, there's that too. These people who do this are very intelligent, and they know how they can threaten and scare people into doing what they want. And you might not know it, but somebody trafficked could be right next door to you, and their eyes are sad. Maybe that they might be a traffic victim. The people in the video were fooled. One thought she was in love with a guy. Another one there was a little boy in the movie that was smiling at a younger girl who was about 11 or 12 possibly, who was with her parents on a trip in another country. And he saw her and he smiled at her. Then he saw her at a later time and smiled at her. And he held up something, and she didn't know what he was talking about, and she walked just a couple steps away from her mother, and she was snatched into a vehicle. And other girls were told they were going to be models, and they were going to go to another country or even to New York, and that's when as soon as they said yes, they found out that I guess this isn't what's going to happen to me, and it was really real the way the movie was done. It was excellent. Another one of my favorite parts was at the end where the ICE agent, the lead female ICE agent, was speaking about how big this has become and the different ages of people trafficked and how they are. It was very informative.
So would you say this is a movie you would recommend to the public?
I would definitely recommend this. It was well done. The actors are all believable, And it really opens your eyes and to see how things like this can happen. I mean, it seems like, kind of seems like it won't happen to me. It's not happening around me, but it could very well be. And this movie shows how it could happen.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Oh, and that's it. I'll be going to the Kids Against Trafficking segment. Please stay around. Thank you. We want to thank you for staying with us today on this show. You saw a great guest talk to us. She's a survivor and she's a woman's advocate, advocating for others. And you could see that she has her own show, just like me, to teach and advocate for other victims of human trafficking. So please go to our website, Breaking My Silence, and learn more about Jane McCormick. Thank you for staying with us this time. We hope to see you next time. And I want to thank my crew and the studio guests. God bless you and bye-bye.